Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm joined by my friend Alannah Connealy. This is our fourth conversation,
Oh
Alannah.
my gosh.
Yeah. So we did one just the two of us, and then we did one with Keith, and then we did one with Georgie, and now we're back just the two.
Awesome.
Thanks for making the time for me again. For those of you who don't know Alannah is an independent researcher, but she's also one of the founders of Reina Health, a hormone company specializing in bioidentical hormones that actually work. And I'm sure everyone does know you at this stage. So welcome back, Alannah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So today I want to discuss your new book, which is not only really interesting, but I have read it and I feel it's straight to the point. Like all these different questions I see from women between Instagram and like the estrogen dominance support group and all of these, the answers are in that book pretty much, especially as it pertains to cancer.
Yeah, the answers are in that book. I love that you said that. That's like literally the point of the book. It's like just put all the answers in there.
Yeah, that's what I try to do. Just give people the answers. And then if they
Yeah.
need more help, they can reach out. So why, well, I kind of know because we've spoke about cancer before, but why did you bite the bullet and decide this is it, we're going to write this book?
Um, I've just been fascinated with cells and cancer because my mom's a cancer, she treats cancer every day. And she probably it's probably in our DNA. I don't know that we are interested in this. I have no idea why, but we both are fascinated by it. So it basically, I've been writing about cancer for years, so it's like a just putting it all together for people. Like if you don't know what caused your cancer, but you're curious or you want to know how to treat cancer, then this is like a guide for getting back to clarity on some of these tough questions.
And it's
So
all cancers too. It's not just like cancer as an overarching theme. You've broken it
yeah.
down into different types of cancer throughout the book.
Yeah, all disease I think has these threads in different intensity and severity. Like everyone is a lockbox and like has a different code for what they need to unlock because their vessel's all unique, but the threads are all the same. It's just like in intensity of the threads at play in the body. So all diseases, I mean all diseases pertain to the book, but cancer is like it's kind of known as the emperor of all diseases. So if you understand cancer, you can really understand a lot of human diseases. So yeah, there's different cancers like pancreas. We break it down, but overall there's themes.
When I first months ago when you initially announced that the book was coming and I heard the name, I was like, "Whoa, that's a really interesting name." Immediately reminded me of Marvel and the multiverse. But you
Yeah.
called it Celluverse. How did you guys agree on that?
Well, you know, a cell is a unit of life. It is the contained unit of life that we all are, you know, that is like what life is we're made of cells. And every cell is its own universe. It's its own society. It's its own little sovereign domain. So, like to me, I just felt like combining the word cells and universe was like a fun way to truly like encapsulate everything we poured into it. And like you said, it's like a big book. Like it is it's a big long book. So it's not like it's not like a short little guide. Like it's a universe of understanding disease and we poured every answer in terms of nutrition and treating disease as we could. So it's both like down to the cell level, but it really is like a bigger picture
The
of life.
cells are like I love the name, but cells are so much more complicated than the average person thinks they are. I mean, I think at this stage, a
Yeah.
lot of people understand your cell contains the mitochondria, which helps you make energy. I think, like on a baseline, most people get that, but they
Hmm.
don't understand the vast amount of other things that a cell is
Oh my gosh.
responsible for or
Yeah.
does.
It's so confusing. I mean, there's just so many pathways at play. Like there's just so many like yeah, there's that tweet that's like a blade of grass is like more complicated than a computer, and the human body, like nature, is just literally the most confusing computer, and that's what makes it so fascinating. But it's confusing. It's like all these things have their light and their darkness. Like it's confusing and simple at the same time. And so it's like, how do we unite these kind of like mysteries of the body with like the answers we know are true, you know? So,
It's like what they're saying about AI being the smartest computer in the world and blah blah. I'm like, it will never, ever, ever compare to the human brain, let alone human cells, nature. No
yeah.
matter what we do, it might get smart, it might be able to think for itself, but it will never match to what God has created in us. There's no comparison there.
Yeah, it's like truly crazy. Every time you like eat or breathe, there's just like all these processes going on, and so that makes disease really, really interesting. But that's what we try to make simple in the book. Yeah.
So, as it says on the label, or like on the front page, why does cancer happen?
Mm, well, the real answer why does cancer happen is because of oxygen interruption to the cell. This was like the Warburg theory. There's different theories of cancer, right? Like people have different, but like the one that is in the book is based off of Otto Warburg's theory, which was that when there's oxygen interruption to the cell, you will have a cell that's not as efficient and then sort of gets dysregulated if it's overwhelmed with oxygen interruption, hypoxia, basically.
Yeah.
But what causes that hypoxia, what causes oxygen to be interrupted, it's not that there's no oxygen, it's that there's oxygen's there. It's just not getting to the cell properly. So what causes that? There's a lot of reasons. There's so many reasons, you know.
The biggest one being metabolic dysfunction.
Yeah. Totally. So yeah, eating wrong, eating the wrong things, PUFA, estrogen, cortisol, all these things will maybe cause the cell not to get what it needs to
Mm.
make energy well.
Because everyone tries to narrow down this causes cancer, and we spoke about this before. Like some practitioner will say they specialize in this and this causes cancer or this, and they're trying so hard to narrow it down. Oh, sugar is the enemy, oh, PUFAs are the enemy, or estrogen. But it really is an accumulation of all of the things. It's rarely just, oh, you ate too much sugar. Like it's rarely anything like that. It's the same when people tried to put forward the argument, oh, our diseases got out of control after 1970 when we started integrating canola or this, that. I wish it was that simple, but I think it's an accumulation of all the things. It's not just, oh, because we started eating more processed food or something. It's lots of different components.
Yeah, I think so. I think for the most part, it's a lot of it's an accumulation of things. Yeah. Yeah, I think like with women, we talk about these patterns. Most of my like audience like is women, and um yeah, it starts from an early age. Like you started puberty earlier and earlier, and then you weren't eating well, and because it's very confusing to know what to eat because a lot of eating habits are societal, not based off of nature and like what nature wants you to eat. So you're not eating well, and then you get put on birth control, and then you're in a stressful job. Then maybe you're put on an SSRI or metformin. And so these things start compounding in the body. And then you're like 60 years old, and maybe you get a mammogram, and then they find something. And, it's kind of a trajectory of stress your entire life that
It's
leads to
been
these
an
things.
accumulation over the years, kind of like the
Yeah.
conversation around osteoporosis and arthritis in postmenopausal women now, and oh, you
Mhm.
need to eat your protein, you need to lift weights, you need estrogen, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay, but this damage was done 10 or 20 years ago. This damage wasn't done in the last few months. This is a long time
Yeah.
coming.
Totally. I mean, that always bothers me when people bring up breast cancer in later life. They're like, it can't be because of estrogen because you don't have any estrogen. I'm like, breast cancer, there's something called the latency period. It takes a very long time for cancer to show up, actually. By the time you feel a pebble or like a tumor, a rock, they're usually like pebble shaped in your breast. It's been that took so long to accumulate. It's actually crazy because like cells are microscopic and what you're finally feeling is like years and years of sometimes, a lot of times it's not for everyone, but a lot of times it just takes a long time for
Yeah,
something to show
because
up.
they're teeny tiny, and then it takes years and years and years to grow to a substantial size that you would either feel them or
Yeah.
you'd go and get some sort of scan done and go,
Yeah.
uh-oh, like this is
Hmm.
clearly a problem. Otherwise,
Hmm.
it could be a cyst or it could be
Yeah.
some sort of even burst varicose vein or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, same thing with osteoporosis. A lot of these things are earlier in life, but when you're in your youth, you just have a lot more, you got resilience and the body is just a lot more capable. But then, now you're seeing women in their 30s get cancer in their young life. So I guess it's trending not great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's very concerning when you start to think about that. There's the genetic familial aspect, but if not, then it's like, well, if she's in her 20s or 30s, or God forbid, younger, what happened here? What was she exposed to in such high amounts that it grew and grew and grew over the last 2 or 3 decades? Like, that's
Yeah.
very concerning. And as much as I don't want to see any young woman suffer like that, they can be valuable cases to help us narrow down like what was this, so we
Yeah.
we all know whatever it was, and hopefully we can get to that point. But also, as you're saying, like, we're more resilient when we're younger, but we also feel like we're invincible. We don't care.
Mhm. So
Like, oh
true.
my God,
Yeah.
I look amazing. I don't need to go to the gym. I don't need to eat healthy. Like, we just don't care. And then by the time we do care, we're like mid 30s and almost too late. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's very true. When you're young, you think, yeah, nothing bad can happen, and then, you know,
Well,
things.
cancer's the last thing on your mind as well. It's like boys and fashion.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, it's way worse to get cancer when you're younger because it's a sign that something's really, really wrong, really, really wrong. We write about this in the book that like, there's this delicate balance of like, a lot of people will die with cancer, not from cancer, and you can live a very long time with cancer as long as it's not growing. And we're kind of now in the system, though, that like every C word of cancer is treated like it's going to kill you when it's really not. But some of them might kill you. So that's why they're treated that way, because there's rarely a lot of nuance. And actually, it's not all on the doctors or the system. A lot of times patients want to be treated heavily for something because they're scared. And they're rightfully scared. Once you hear the C word, that's scary. And so it's really complicated, when we talk about like why women, overdiagnosis and overtreatment. It's like it's a delicate topic for sure.
It
Yeah.
is delicate because even if someone has not got a diagnosis themselves, they know someone else close who
Yeah.
has, because it's so common. They've lost some with it. But I do feel like, and agree with me or don't, but I get the picture that more and more women, for sure, because women tend to be more proactive and we want a more natural approach. A lot more women now refusing the conventional treatment option and going down a more holistic path of it's okay, I can heal myself, and looking at other utilities, like whether or not that's mistletoe or progesterone or even just sunlight exposure, red light therapy. There's more women now, I find, saying no to the oncology route because I don't know if it is voices like ours or the literature they're reading, but there there seems to be growing evidence that going down the conventional pathway may kill you faster than not. So
Yeah, there's definitely more and more women wanting other options, and I just hope that if they get the right information to really solve their cancer. And I think that's like why we put the book together is like you might be a lot of people I know are refuse anti or like a or anti-arom like anastrozole and
The aromatase
tamoxifen.
inhibitors, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting, and I just hope that they are because I know my mom is like, sometimes we have to give them these things, and it's because the cancer is growing really fast,
Mhm.
and you want to keep the cancer like contained. And so I just hope that they get the right answers that will solve their cancer, that like they might say no to treatment, but I want the, obviously want the best for these people. So it just depends on what they decide to do. And, with the book, we lay out all types of options, like even drugs. Like
Yeah, I've
it's not
seen.
like I'm anti-drugs or anything. I'm just pro the things that actually work. Like, we talk about meldonium in the book quite a bit, which is a very popular cancer drug in Russia that's not used in America. It's a real drug. It's a very intense drug, but it can work. And so we would just need to focus on these things that actually work to solve cancer rather than say no to something because it's like, you know, just doesn't feel like, oh, I don't know, without any kind of sound plan. And you need a plan, for these things.
It seems like the book gives a voice to these other tools that are underutilized in both
Yeah.
conventional and, shall we say, holistic or naturopathic medicine in the Western Hemisphere. There's a lot of stuff that Maldonian mistletoe, stuff like that, that people have never heard of ever.
Yeah.
So the book gives you a voice, whatever route you go down. Here are 20 other things that you may have never heard of that could be beneficial
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, all kinds of things. And a lot of cheap things too, a lot of
Sunlight
great.
is free.
Yeah, like well like hyperthermia even is very it's like heating up of the tumor. A lot of these treatments can be not that expensive. And in a world where immunotherapy can cost you $100,000, $100,000, I just think we have to give people some more options from a lot of different price points too. Um,
What do you think, in your opinion, out of all the different factors or things that can influence cancer, what do you think are like the top one or two things that like if you, well, I know you're proactive in any way, like that you're primarily focused on like I'd never want to get cancer, so this is what I'm these are the two things I'm going to focus on.
I'm yeah. Well, with diet, I'm pretty cautious on not eating high PUFA foods and foods that don't agree with me really. So I don't do like a lot of kale. I don't do a lot of raw vegetables, and then I don't do any nuts and seeds. So I just try to keep PUFA as low as possible, but I'm really not that crazy about it. I'm just like I won't eat like a purely high PUFA food. So I'm kind of careful on that. And then I get sunlight every day. I try to tan, like you were saying, you're so tan, Freckles. I try to tan every single day. I think getting sunlight is just one of the best things you can do to limit you know, and then I supplement progesterone every 2 weeks too. So I do that. And I try to keep stress really low and like life pretty like happy overall. But I also take a lot of like hot showers, try not to be cold ever, try to be hot.
Why, let's
Um,
just focus on this. Why do you try to be hot when so many people are speaking about the benefits of contrast showers and ice baths and everything? What is your reasoning for let's be more hot than cold?
I think yeah, I guess the cold can just be very stressful on the body. Raising stress hormones. A lot of bioenergetics is about not encouraging the release of stress hormones where it doesn't need to happen. So like you're keeping your adrenaline and your prolactin and your estrogen and all these stress hormones normal or where they're supposed to be. So I think I don't know. I also just think bathing is really medicinal. That's not even like a bioenergetic thing. I actually just think like
It's like water therapy.
yeah, I think it's amazing. Actually, historically, water therapy, bathing therapy used to be very common. They had like all these like weird techniques with it. Like you'd have to like rush you'd like move your feet in like these different patterns in a bath. There's like all these old books of like bathing therapies, but I take like 2 baths a day in like really hot water. So I just actually just think it's medicinal too. And I think being clean is important too, but that's kind of those are just
I
little weird things I
I've
do.
heard of in regards to water therapy, like asking the water to take away your concerns or your worries or washing
I do
away
that every
or
night.
praying to the water while you're in the water.
I do that every
Um,
day. Yeah.
yeah, and last I have like I always elaborate to my clients like it has to be hot, hot. Like as
Yeah.
hot as you can tolerate it. Sometimes I don't know how I don't have third-degree burns. It's so hot.
That's
Um,
funny. Yeah.
and I initially started doing this when many years ago, I had heard Dr. Rhonda Patrick discuss all the different benefits of heat shock proteins as it
Mhm.
pertains to cardiovascular health, anti-inflammatory, anti-aging. So then I just found like a lot of benefit from using heat therapy with my clients. And
Yeah.
also, though, the kind of stress reduction that you get,
Totally.
although it can be stressful in the moment when you get in before you adapt to the temperature, there's a clear night and day um, stress reduction there when you're in hot water compared to cold. And I know there's so much talk around the cold baths, but I'm not doing it. Look, I run a business, I'm super busy, I'm a mom, like I don't need to
Yeah.
be elevating my stress hormones. And people feel so good after these because they get a huge dump of adrenaline. Adrenaline makes you feel good. It doesn't mean
Mm.
it is
Yeah.
good though in the long term. And there is a conversation to be had that maybe men can get away with it because they are designed to be more resilient than us. Their adrenals function better than, but a woman when she's juggling 20 things and she has kids demands and like
Yeah.
clearly she needs a lot of progesterone, like that's probably not a good idea for her.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. I do that every night. I mean, I pray in the shower and literally ask the world the water to wipe away. Like clean slate. Let's start over from today. So those are
So
just like little things. Yeah.
whether or not you're an advocate for Christianity, Catholicism, or you're agnostic and you just believe in the universe or witchery, whatever you believe in, each one of these modalities, they all have an element of water being purifying and
Mhm.
cleansing and
Mhm.
medicinal.
Yeah.
So clearly, like this is being carried down through the centuries, there is something to it. Now,
Yeah.
whether or not that works well when you're water is full of fluoride and everything. I don't
Mhm.
know, but it's still water.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't even talk about that in the book because it's like it is geared towards more like, you have cancer, what should I take kind of stuff. What should I do and take? But yeah, I think those little rituals are probably just as important. Yeah.
In the book, you did mention the sunlight topic, especially as it pertains to breast cancer and
Mhm.
getting sun. And I don't know if you follow Dr. Jack Kruse's work, but he talks a lot about how women should be exposing their breasts to UV rays, specifically sunlight, as much as possible for the prevention of
Mhm.
breast cancer. So clearly, like you're on the same wavelength there.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, women with healthy vitamin D levels are less likely to get breast cancer. Obviously, women are concerned about like wrinkles, which I get, but you can't get cancer. Wrinkles aren't what like they're not going to give you cancer, but being low in vitamin D can give you actually contribute to disease. So I think we have to really be in reality about what actually is bad and good for you. And so sunlight, I think, is amazing. I think I always feel better when I'm after spending like 30 minutes bathing in the sun. I mean, I'm in public, so I don't know if my neighbors would be that pleased if I was just showing the world my without a top on, but I think if you can do that, I think that's amazing. I would love to do that. I'm usually at a park or something, and I don't want to scare the kids, you know.
Or get arrested. In the book, so I just want to touch on this because I'm pretty sure you have read Illness as a Metaphor by Susan Sontag.
I don't
Um,
know. No.
so one thing you said, so illness as a metaphor, she discusses the contrast between specifically cancer, and then she does a different section on AIDS, on how we consider cancer now and how we considered it in the early like 1600s, 1700s, like the days of horse and carriage, Victorian times, and she kind of contrasts it with some of the old, very creative literaturists, the poets, the artists, and how a lot of their cancer was related to melancholy and whatnot. Anyway,
Mm,
so I highlighted this part because I was like, this is pretty much what that book discusses. And it
mm.
said, and I have said this so much. I personally believe that if anything is going to give you cancer, it's going to be a lot of stress.
Yeah,
Stress for sure. But it
yeah.
says many women with breast cancer have lived through long periods of emotional stress, unresolved grief, and deep personal disruption. The breasts carry meaning. They reflect identity, the ability to nurture relationships, and the idea of home, and I would add safety there. They are the body's nest. It's no wonder that deep emotional stress often surfaces in physical illness. And I'm like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my mom always says she always believed like breast cancer is unrest in your nest. So I think that's where that kind of idea came from is she always, yeah, she said that a lot of times breast cancer comes after like a divorce, especially losing a child. I don't have like there's not this is not well studied, but that is like I've talked to a lot of women at the cancer center that I used to work at with my mom, and a lot of times if you lose a child, I mean there's just pretty much no more bigger grief than that.
Mm.
Um, and it's at your home and stuff. So yeah, I think stress is I when I meet a lot of women with breast cancer, they all seem to have like a very stressful life event that they've gone
Something has
through.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, whether it's like a divorce or like very intense job or something like that. But it's really not an area that's well studied.
Hmm.
And so, there's like hundreds of citations in the book, but I think we had to really clarify that that's an opinion because I wish they would study it more, but I think it's kind of hard to, it's like hard to quantify
I
on
do
those.
believe there is that manifestation aspect that
Yeah.
it manifests for whatever reason. And I did see a study when I was going through my cervical cancer, like 5 or 6 years ago, I had came across a study by a doctor. He's an Asian doctor, Doctor, I think it's Williamson was his name, and he was discussing the aspect of why women get cervical and ovarian cancer after extreme periods of stress,
Hmm.
kind of like what Otto Warburg was saying. It was like, well, when you're under this immense amount of stress, you cut off blood flow to these reproductive organs because you don't
Hmm.
need them for survival technically. And when there is no adequate blood flow to these organs, the organs basically starve of both oxygen and nutrients because of the stress response. And that was his proposal for, I suppose it's more of a physiological response to stress,
Yeah.
but why women after stressful events tend to get more cancer in the reproductive organs. But I do still believe there is just a purely emotional, energetic aspect too, because there would have to be.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a literal biochemical interpretation of stress, like when you go into fight or flight, that fight mode you're like a different person. I mean, you're like a lion in the wild, like suddenly you're like alert and the hormones allow us to be that way, but they're not supposed to be prolonged like exposure. That's when you end up having high adrenaline, high prolactin, which increases estrogen. Prolactin ups stress, ups estrogen, and so you have more estrogen receptors on your breasts too. And it's no wonder that these hormonal cancers are related to stress because I mean estrogen is a stress hormone, you know. So it's all really connected with cortisol. And then the more, you know, you're stressed, the more it augments your blood sugar and your body's like, wait, we need more fuel. So it's like, let's trigger lipolysis, let's get more fat out. And then that's how you end up with, you know, cells not burning sugar correctly, have all this augmented you know,
And
way of
not
making.
dividing properly because depending on the woman, when this lipolysis happens, those cells could have been jam-packed with pesticides, herbicides, other toxins that are now getting dumped into the bloodstream as well.
Yeah, yeah. And then you do that over long enough time, you know. I think the body's really resilient. Like I don't think once in a while, I think we're just equipped to handle stress and we can like the body is just used to it over billions of years. But you know, when it's really prolonged like that, it's like what, you know, there's consequences. There's always a cause and effect, you know. Sometimes it feels like when you talk to doctors, they think disease comes out of thin air. They're like, we don't know. We don't know, and it might be genetics, which is really nothing better than superstition at this point. And so for some reason they don't really want to, I mean, the cause and effect, it's hard because a woman, like we always get someone saying like, oh, so you're saying I caused my own cancer? And it's always a really tough question
Well, you don't want to
because
make someone feel
you
guilty
don't want to,
for
yeah,
their
exactly.
choices. Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, when you get diagnosed with cancer, you're so overwhelmed with emotions and opinions you can't, it's even hard to navigate clearly what is going on, you know. They're in the worst capability spot to like be creative and experimental, like and experiment with what has happened in their past to lead here. And so it's really hard, you know.
This is why that saying is out. A pinch of prevention is worth an ounce of cure, whatever way they say it. Like it's
Yeah,
prevent if prevention is the most valuable medicine or therapy, shall we say. But unfortunately,
totally.
not everybody is going to be proactive in that until it is
Yeah.
too late. And now it is just a cure, it's not prevention.
Yeah, and it's like how the information you get changes your life a lot. And so like you know, I was blessed to grow up with a mom that you know lived and breathed hormones and stuff, but not everyone has that exposure and it's truly like very lucky to end up where like me and you have been, you know, reading these things and we're just interested in it too. Like if you're interested in health, you're kind of like luckier, you know, I think than maybe someone that's just not because the right information changes your body, you know?
And changes the choices that you make on a
Yeah,
daily basis.
exactly.
You mentioned the estrogen there. There's something I highlighted that I want to discuss, but you know that the black label warning was removed from estrogen just before Christmas. What do you think about that?
I think like part of it was removed. I think it still has like some warnings on it. Um, I think that there's been hundreds and thousands of studies that show estrogen is a carcinogen. It's carcinogenic. My mom is a direct, like my mom was exposed to a synthetic estrogen, then she got precancer on her cervix. We have thousands of real life examples showing estrogen is a carcinogen. Um, doesn't mean that it's gonna give you cancer. You're supposed to have estrogen in the body. I don't know why people can't like really understand that estrogen is supposed to be higher in the body once in a while, but if it's prolonged, then it is not good if
Oh,
it's unbalanced with progesterone. It's really that simple, you know?
yeah. It is
So,
a case of estrogen is supposed to be there. Estrogen is not inherently bad the same way cortisol is not, as long as it's controlled and in balance.
yeah,
And we have all the other lifestyle factors, like everything's good. But when it
yeah,
is too high and out of control, this is what I say to my clients at that stage. Estrogen is considered a stress hormone, then. It's a growth hormone, it's wreaking havoc. And that regardless of the Women's Health Initiative, that's not the only study. And this is annoying me lately, is a lot of people with the conversation around hormone therapy and estrogen, they keep going back to that same study. Do you not
Yeah.
know the
Yeah.
other studies? Like even the WHO right now still
Yeah.
has estrogen. I think it's a class 2 classified carcinogenic. Like they didn't remove that. That's still there.
Yeah. I don't think and I think at the end of the day, I don't think the authors actually retracted their like final conclusions from the WHI. But yeah, it's been really conflated with a lot of different opinions. But I mean, even when estrogen rises in the cycle, it's actually still stressful for the woman's body. It's just that we have a way of dealing with that, and that's a ton of progesterone to literally thoroughly extract estrogen from the cell. So it's actually it's crazy, the menstrual cycle. It is literally a cycle of excitement, stress, rupture, and healing and repair, which mirrors the cycle of healing in the human body. And so it's actually, it's all still there. It's just that that's the way we deal with it with progesterone. So I think it's really incredible. But I sell estrogen. I just live in reality that it can be an issue for women. I think you just have to be careful. These are real interventions, and you want to understand why you're using something and if you really need it. You know,
But
some women might
you sell estrogen bias, do you guys
we
sell?
sell biased, yeah.
But you also don't sell it by itself. It's with progesterone. There are
Yeah, we sell it
practitioners
with
out there
progesterone.
who are only giving their women estrogen without even
Yeah.
looking at the full picture. Like these women might be
Crazy.
very overweight, they might already have heavy periods and all the
Yeah.
other symptoms of estrogen dominance. And whatever training they got, their answer is to give them more estrogen. And then I'm like, alarm bells, that's not a good idea. But
Yeah.
this is especially since this is my concern, especially since the black label warning was removed. Now it's almost like, oh, look, the FDA removed this, so it's completely safe. Let's give it to
Yeah.
it's almost a free for all. And then then the mainstream media went crazy a few weeks ago, all like, oh no, there's a shortage of estrogen patches and this, that. Yeah, because you're giving it out like candy now because the FDA removed the black label warning.
Yeah, no,
Like,
totally.
this is a problem. So we're not seeing the issue immediately, but what are we
Yeah.
going to see in 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, guys, cancer takes a really long time to show up. So you just need to be careful with what you're taking. But yeah, I agree. I think the estrogen pills are very hard on the liver, and we wanted to give women an alternative if they really, really, really needed estrogen. At least it wouldn't be through a capsule, which is very common in America. At least it's very normal to do an estrogen pill. And so women were like, okay, I don't want it to go through my liver. I'll take it transdermally. But yeah, it's actually insane how misunderstood estrogen is. There's literally like I've not the amount of doctors I've seen like say you need estrogen for your bones and your heart, which is not estrogen's role at all. Like estrogen literally is designed in a woman's body actually for reproduction. And I don't know why we have to like force these traits onto estrogen. Like, why do we need it to be something that makes you glow? Like,
Because we
I
need to make it sound good so women feel comfortable, not only comfortable in taking it, but feeling like they need it as well. A lot of women feel
yeah,
they need estrogen without stopping to talk to someone who does know about it and be like, well, maybe I don't actually need that. Maybe I don't need any hormones. Maybe it's something else. Maybe I'm
yeah,
really
yeah,
stressed and
agree.
I eat terrible.
Yeah, yeah, which is often part of the story,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, we created something at Reina called like the all method, which is that you do everything else first before you add in estrogen, which I think is a really logical approach. You do progesterone, you do pregnenolone, you check your thyroid levels, DHEA levels, see if you need those first. You adjust your nutrition. You want to do everything else first if you're in menopause before you just throw in estrogen because it just happens to be a hormone that has a double-edged sword. It's the kiss of life and death. So that's why it actually creates, the spike of ovulation, but it also can cause an abortion. There's nothing more symbolic of the kiss of life and death than estrogen, you know. So, it's just really good that you understand these really critical hormones that you're putting in your body before you take them.
I want to
Yeah.
stick with estrogen, but before I do, because I've seen this come up more and more, and I wonder if it's a defense tactic by Big Pharma or someone. And someone said it to me the other day. One of my new clients, I got her prescription for progesterone like through her doctor, and like she needed it. She definitely needed it. But her daughter immediately said, well, what about the research saying progesterone causes cancer? And I'm
Hmm.
hearing this more common lately. It's almost like
Hmm.
it's a deterrent for people to try progesterone.
Yeah, I hear that too sometimes. I think they get confused with synthetic progesterone. I hope,
Progesterone.
that they're
Yeah.
just confused like semantically on it. But yeah, synthetic progesterone can cause cancer, but it can cause cancer in that it's estrogenic. A lot of progestins. There's different progestins, but the like, most common ones are based off of the testosterone structure,
Mhm.
and then they augment it. So it can be really androgenic. A lot of women go on the pill, the mini pill, and they get like acne from it because it's androgenic. It's based off testosterone, so it makes sense. But yeah, I hope they're just confused because there's a lot of studies that showing synthetic progesterones can cause cancer, but it's not progesterone.
Yeah.
Progesterone's never ever been shown to cause cancer in any real world study. So,
And that's part of the WHI was on the progestins, not progesterone.
hmm. Yeah, I think that was like one group with was on Premarin, which was the
Pregnant mare's urine.
yeah, horse urine estrogen. Um, and then I think the other one was on synthetic estrogen and synthetic progesterone. So nothing with natural progesterone, but yeah, you don't even need to look at those studies. You just need to really understand the purpose of the hormones deep down. Really just get close to them and get comfortable with them. So you don't have to look at all these studies, you know? Just look at the menstrual cycle. I think a lot can be learned. It's the problem is we don't teach the menstrual cycle in like a class properly, you know,
And
in
what
women.
about, so while we're still on this, in the book, there's a section, page 332, where you discuss triple negative breast cancer. And then there's the PR positive breast cancer, which would be the progesterone receptors. And I was looking for the ER one, but I can't remember where I saw it. So let's, because women do say this a lot, but they don't fully understand it. They'll say, oh, I got a diagnosis of ER, breast cancer, or PR, or both in some cases. What does that mean?
Yeah, so when you get a breast diagnosis, they'll take a biopsy and they will check the receptor status. And oftentimes it'll be like ER, PR positive or, different combinations of the biopsy. And a lot of women, because it's PR positive, think that progesterone's causing their breast cancer when it couldn't be further from the truth. It's usually those women that need progesterone more than anything. So they are swayed that's something that
They
could
can't have
solve
any
their,
hormones.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But they need progesterone. So, but yeah, it's really confusing because of the wording choice, I guess, of it. But it basically means there's progesterone receptors and estrogen receptors on the tissue, but there's normally receptors on the tissue. So it's actually a sign that the tissue is relatively normal because like normal tissue has that. So they're like, oh, good. If it didn't have any receptors, it'd be really aggressive cancer, triple negative. So at least with the receptor status, a lot of times it's used to dictate the treatment that will be used because there's receptors. So if there's no receptors, then they may not do like a very hormone therapy approach because there's no receptors. But the bottom line is, hormones can act on the cell with or without a receptor. They can influence the cell in a lot of different ways. Receptors are still important, but it's like half the story. This is why it's better just to understand, I think, like the true purpose of these hormones. So yeah, usually what you don't want is a situation where you're low in progesterone and high in estrogen. That is the situation that causes breast cancer. That is like your breast health is dictated by those two hormones. So we do such a disservice to women to like beating around the bush. It's like this is it, this is it. These are the two hormones that tell the story of the menstrual cycle. They're the two main hormones that are involved in breast health because they're the leads of the play, basically.
But it's so obvious for women during PMS when they get very swollen, tender, fibrotic breasts, which is clearly an indication that, for lack of better terminology, your estrogen is out of control if you're in that much pain and you're getting fibrotic breasts. So that
Yeah.
tells us you have a lot of estrogen, you need progesterone. But then I'm also like, well, if this is such a big problem for you, there is a genuine concern for breast cancer in the future because that tissue is already becoming damaged.
Yeah, yeah, that's I mean, if you have fibrocystic breast, you're more likely to get breast cancer. So it should be taken seriously. It makes sense though, because that is really collagen that gets hardened, and the hardening process makes it more hypoxic. So there's less oxygen getting to that area. And so it's benign now, but again, these things take a while to develop. So it's a red flag, that you need to do. A lot of them apply progesterone directly to the breast to
Mhm.
soften up. They actually
Yeah,
call
my
that
clients to
ropiness. It's
do
called
that
ropey.
to take away the pain. It takes away the
Yeah,
pain. So, but a doctor's not telling them this.
I know it's really crazy. A lot of women have really dense breasts, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know. They said it wasn't that big of a deal," and I'm like, "Well, it can be down the line, and you can solve it. Let's solve it. Let's figure it out."
Well, it
Um,
is. If they're swelling and growing, and estrogen is a growth hormone, we've got the estrogen factor, but then you cannot have pain or soreness without inflammation. So now you've got an inflammatory factor. This is like a perfect storm. You've got inflammation of the tissue, which is then
yeah.
being fed by estrogen. And I know not everyone looks at it the way we do, but to me, I'm like, this is alarm bells.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that scaffolding is literally that collagen hardening, that scaffolding in the tissue, and the estrogen causes it to harden. So it's not a big mystery. We can get to the bottom of that one. You apply the progesterone, but also figure out why that's happening. A lot food, nutrition, stress, low thyroid, low vitamin A, high prolactin, all these things that these like little levers that need to get touched on a little
I
bit
don't want
more.
to keep going on with progesterone, but this just came to my mind. So, weight loss is my thing, like that's what I
Yeah.
do. And it is known, at least in the circles I kind of run in, that collagen and that collagen matrix is a huge factor in how easily you will lose weight, but also your ability to keep weight off in the long term. And that hardening of the collagen matrix and the cellular collagen is a big factor in like stubborn weight loss, people's ability to lose weight. And this makes me think that if progesterone is softening that collagen, like I know progesterone is pro-thyroid, pro-metabolic, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
but maybe this is another weight loss thing that I hadn't considered before, that progesterone could help soften up the collagen, making weight loss a bit easier and preventing that rebound weight gain.
Yeah, yeah, it could be. Yeah. I think progesterone's also good like for weight loss in terms of like normalizing blood sugar. And so I mean one of estrogen's effects is it can make you hypoglycemic. And that might sound like a good thing, like it's lowering blood sugar, but you live on sugar. Your cells require sugar to make energy. And so these substances that are really heavily lowering blood sugar it's not always a positive. It's actually very risky. There's nothing worse than feeling hypoglycemic. I'm sure everyone's been like, oh my God, I'm low blood sugar. It's like a really scary state.
Yeah,
And
go to
progesterone can
faint.
normalize it. Yeah, 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 totally. So
Speaking of sugar, then your approach is more the pro-metabolic bioenergetics approach to nutrition, right? Like you're not
yeah.
You're not one of these, like, dare I say, primal queen who, oh my God, fruit is going to kill you, sugar is bad. Like, you are not afraid of sugar.
No, yeah. I mean, our book is based off of like Ray Peat's work, and which heavily, is it recommends sugar. And so we try to explain to people what sugar is, because sugar, for some reason, is like a boogeyman. In 2020, this year, 2026, it's always a boogeyman. It's gonna kill you. It's so funny. It's just everything is so backwards. And the thing that we say is like really bad for you is the thing that life depends on, which I just think like encapsulates like the silly scam that we are living in society now. But yeah, you need sugar, you need it to survive. You literally will die without it. That's why there's, people have diabetes where they carry sugar around.
It is, you can see where it's very, very confusing for the general population. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
one
Yeah.
hand we have, oh, you shouldn't eat any type of sugar, you should be keto, you should be carnivore. And then on the other side, there actually is the sugar diet. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's like, there's a lot, people don't know this, but there's a lot of research on primarily using sugar. And when we're referring to sugar, we're not talking about Skittles or junk food. We're talking about like our natural sugars, our fruit, our vegetables, sweet potatoes, stuff like that. But there's research showing that people who primarily only eat carbs or sugar can reverse all metabolic disorders. They can reverse their diabetes. And this is where you can see where people get confused. But like, hold on, I thought sugar was so
Yeah.
bad for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I also there's like a disconnect where as I saw someone post like I'm not eating sugar, I'm just eating like fruit, and I'm like, fruit is sugar. Fruit is sugar, like a lot of these food, I don't know why we just don't know even what we need to do like a sugar class. I wish they taught a sugar class too in school. But I hope the book covers that pretty good, because we do spend quite an extensive period of time explaining sugar, because it is really that important, like that's how we live. That's how our cell there's no organ that makes energy. Every cell makes energy, and every cell uses sugar to make energy, which is not true for any other substance. Not every cell uses fat to make energy. Some cells, I mean, actually, I think that'll debunk everything. Some cells can only burn sugar. Some cells can only use sugar for energy. And I think that's just so amazing that only some cells, like there's no other way. The way they are made is only sugar. So what are you going to tell to them? Are you going to tell them sugar's
No, you
bad?
have no choice. You have to have
They have
fat.
no choice. They're going to
Yeah,
get the sugar. And if you don't eat the sugar, they're going to cannibalize your own body to get the sugar. And it's the same sugar. It's the same chemical structure. So like, why is it okay for your body to cannibalize sugar versus just eat it? And that's kind of the point of the book. It's like, just do what's easy.
that's it. Without your liver will make its own sugar if you're not going to give it.
Well,
And if
yeah.
if it wasn't essential, why does the liver make it then if it's not essential? And
Yeah.
then the primary fuel source for the brain is glycogen. It's not fat, it's not ketones.
Yep.
Glycogen is the preferred source, even though we've been told time and time again, no, your brain preferentially wants ketones, but it doesn't. It will use them if it has to. But the
Yeah.
primary fuel source, like that glycogen replenishing, happens when you sleep. Your brain replenishes glycogen. It does not replenish fat when you're asleep. So
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
look at that physiological aspect, that your brain is, I can understand why people get confused. Like the brain is made up of fat, but it doesn't mean that that's like the fuel it likes to use.
Yeah, there's so many of those little like paradox things, like how, I guess people say, estrogen helps with bone health when really the calcium gets retained in like the soft tissues, which is what you don't want to happen. So there's all these like little paradoxes
I think
involved.
the one thing that most everyone, almost, not everyone, there's a few that I could name that don't agree with this, but most people agree across the board is the PUFAs, the hydrogenated fats, the margarine, all of that stuff is like maybe we should avoid that. But then the average person doesn't realize a lot of that stuff is actually in their nuts and seeds as well. But at least we can all agree like seed oils, vegetable oils, probably not the best idea.
Yeah, yeah. We spend a lot of time on vegetable oils and polyunsaturated fats because I really do believe they are a huge contributor to cancer when people are eating too much PUFA. And we are just consume a ton of that in our diet now with canola oil being so prevalent as it is. The heavy consumption of nuts and seeds these days, fatty fish. So PUFA consumption is just higher than ever. And yeah, sugar consumption's as low as ever, which is really interesting.
But we're sicker than ever, which is also
Yeah.
very interesting. And
Yeah, yeah.
now I can already hear people saying, "What? I thought nuts and seeds were good for you, and fatty fish like salmon is good for you." So again, the confusion continues on. I don't think it will ever end. At this point, I'm of the opinion that um, people, women are just going to have to find a practitioner that they align with, that they think can help them, and then narrow it down and hopefully get those results that they're looking for. And then instead of clutching at straws, they have found their golden nugget at that stage. You can't be listening here and there. You'll eventually have to work with someone to figure out what works for you.
Definitely. I mean, that's part of the journey, it's part of the process is getting to know your body and who to listen to and who to take advice from and ultimately how to listen to your own intuition. Because one thing's for sure is women are very intuitive and if we kind of let these signals from the body, we really listen to them, I think we can get somewhere. So combining all this data that we have today, we can get blood testing very cheap and we can hear people on podcasts and read books and stuff, and we ultimately can figure out what's right for our path.
Alana, thank you for your time today. If you had a few words in regards to cancer that you would like everyone to know, what would it
Oh
be?
gosh.
No. Read my book.
No, I think read my book because it's just it's a big topic. I think you write a book to say that this information should be taken seriously. And you don't write a book just to like for fun or anything. It's not fun. It's really because you want the information out there. So definitely buy the book. It's on Amazon. And yeah,
If
listen
I was to put words in your mouth, I would go with the first sentence on the back of the book. It says, "Cancer isn't a mistake, it's a logical response."
it's
It's
true.
responding to something happening, and you need to go to the book to figure out what's causing that response.
Yep.
Okay, Alana, thank you for your time today. Love you. Lovely to see you as
You
always.
too. You too.